welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week's episode of the program, we will be discussing about the essence of training and retraining of workers for self-development in the workplace, both in the private sector or the public sector. We will be right back. It all started in November 2017 when President Muhammadu Buhari set up a tripartite committee to come up with a new national minimum wage for Nigeria after more than 5 years without increment in salary. Akpan Peter is an executive administrative officer on grade level 7 step 8 in the employ of the federal government. He tells me he earns 54,000 naira a month, an amount he says cannot cater for himself and his family.
I have a family of 5, depending on this minimum, this wage of 53,000. It's very, very difficult for me to manage. My house rent, the children's school fees, as I'm talking to you now, I've not been able to even pay part of their school fees.
In an exclusive interview with TVC News, the Director General of Nigeria Employers Consultative Association (NECA) spoke about the implications of a new wage structure on the economy.
As it obtains in the private sector, we've used the private sector as learning point for government, where negotiations are without rancor, where we don't wait until there is a spillover of crisis and loss of confidence before we start engaging ourselves. And what happens in the private sector? Our procedural agreements, which I'm not even sure they have in the public sector. There is a procedural agreement which spells out the relationship between the workers' representatives and the employers' representatives.
On the 18th of April 2019, after several threats of strike by workers and negotiations by the tripartite committee, President Buhari signed the 30,000 naira new minimum wage bill into law. Only 2 states in the country complied with the new national minimum wage law, while Labour and government engaged in prolonged negotiations before reaching an agreement on the new consequential adjustment in salary. According to the collective bargaining agreement reached, grade level 7 officers will receive 23.2% increase, those on level 8 will receive 20%, while grade level 9 officers have 19% pay rise. Also, grade levels 10 to 14 officers will receive 18% increase, while workers on grade level 15 to 17 will enjoy 14% increase. A graphical representation of what workers in other countries earn as minimum wage will throw more light on agitation of workers in Nigeria. Ironically, Nigerian politicians earn the highest salary in the world. For Akpan Peter, a father of 5 children, who was expecting 60% increase in the salary structure to enable him meet up with his daily needs, he hopes that the economy will improve and the naira appreciate in the global market.
Some will be as ordinary as we are just here to serve our people. Very abstract, very, very abstract.
Training and retraining has been identified as the best practice employers require for their workers to make them learn new skills. Although most employees receive training at the beginning of their employment, further training on the job may be necessary in order to avoid a stagnant workforce. For the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, corporate governance and strategic management is essential for its members for development and nation building.
If you want to be a good and strong and committed worker, you have to have skill set that will enable you to be competitive on the market. If you know how to do the job, you will always, but always, be needed.
The facilitators trained workers on the need to be united, strategic and innovative towards having robust engagement between government and workers.
When we talk about training and retraining, it's the most important aspect of human life. Then, even from when you are born, you start even learning. Now, to come to the corporate world and the developmental process is something that you cannot do without, or else you will be stagnant. And when you don't learn and you don't get your team to be trained, and you don't even, as a leader, you don't go for regular training, definitely there's no way you can be ahead of the pack.
I want to see the different unionists in them. I want to see the different people in them by will of the action, by will of seeing that certain things that anti-labor practice are really fought scientifically. I mean, gone are the days when you start banging on the table, but now we are not talking things scientifically, which I think is one of the principles behind this training we are doing.
Some of the participants shared their experience about the program.
The training is superb. It's wonderful. It has taken us, our thinking to a different level. The view we used to have about progress in the union has been enhanced upon. Now we know that for the union to make progress, we need to be strategic, and that so many things come into play. Vision, objectivity, processes, and others has to come into play.
In the unionism, you have an executive. Sometimes you are made of different tribal groups. Don't think or overrule other tribal groups. You make them to participate. Take their ideas, they're human beings like yourself.
That's the power of vision, where you dream big, where you think big, and go on.
The association hopes the training of its members will increase efficiency in the processes of doing things, resulting in financial gain, increase capacity to adopt new technologies and methods, as well as enhance innovation in strategies and products. On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with the Secretary General and the President of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria. They tell me about the impacts the training and retraining of its members on global best practice in the workplace has had in the union. We will be right back. Recently, the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria took the bold step to train its members. It's not the first time it will be happening. Can you tell us the effect of training and retraining of your members?
The effect has been very marvelous. We are finding it a lot easier to manage our own union now, because the people are well educated, they are well enlightened, they know what it is within the country, they know what it is outside the country. So when you are dishing out information, they absorb this information without any problem. And it's not like that in other areas where training and retraining are not part and parcel of their structural setup. We've been saying that ours is no longer a trade union, it's a movement. It's a movement in the sense that as we speak, they understand where we are as regards this current issue of minimum wage. They understand exactly where we are as regards this vexed issue of extension of tenure, illegal extension of tenure of permanent secretaries. You understand? So the issue of rumor mongering has been reduced to the BRS minimum. So they are following these steps one after the other through all the platforms that have been created within the ambit of the union to disseminate information. So the training and retraining has impacted positively on members, it has impacted positively on leaders, and to God be the glory. And we have just started. It started in 2013, and I can assure you that it's going to be a continuum. We've been to South Africa, we've been to Dubai, we've been to the USA. So we are planning trips to the Far East, so that let us compare notes and see what is really happening in other climes. And I want to believe that even the country itself will be better off in the foreseeable future.
So what's your message to employers of labor, be it government or the private sector, in ensuring that their workers are up to date with world best practice?
My advice to them is to take the issue of training and retraining very seriously. Things are changing very fast in the world of work. technology is also moving very fast. And if you don't train, the workers become stale. The ideas they have become stale. Their ways of handling their assignment becomes a different thing entirely. Because like I said, if you move out, you see how they achieve a lot with minimal effort. And you see the level of achievement, the level of attainment with minimum resources, very little resources. And you want to look at it that, okay, granted that I have this kind of opportunity, because in this country, for those of us who have been able to move out, we are wasting a lot of money on frivolities. And for a firm, for a very small establishment, particularly for the government, be it at the local government, state government level, or federal level, training and retraining of workers who add value to what they are doing. And at the end of the day, the government itself, the establishment itself, the firm itself will be the better for it. Even traveling alone is education. Traveling alone is education. So when somebody looks at it and says, okay, why don't you do what you are doing? Why don't you do it within the confines of the country? I laugh. Yes, like ours is both local and international. The moment you get to the airport and you see the way you are treated by the customs, the way you are treated by the immigrations, the way that you are treated by other staffs that are working within the airport arrangement, you mark it. You know that you are writing it somewhere, but within your consciousness is registered. You enter the plane. See the way you are treated, see the way you get seated, see the way you move to the toilet when you are pressed, you see the way you are served. You see, something starts running through your mind. Like when we went to the US, you saw the way they are doing that. It's not maybe that they are better than us. It's not maybe they are richer than us. It's organization, which is what trade union preaches. You organize. They have been able to organize themselves. The leadership have been able to organize itself. They've been able to organize their people. They've been able to mobilize their people. They've been able to organize their resources. They've been able to mobilize they've been able to utilize their resources towards areas of need. And at the end of the day, you discover that if you earmark 3 naira for a particular purpose, it goes for that purpose. And the result they are getting. Unlike a scenario whereby you earmark something for road construction, for example, and somebody puts it in the pocket. The road is supposed to be repaired on a regular basis, and within the budgetary arrangement, provisions have been made for road repair. The road that is not there, somebody is putting it in the pocket. It is the future of the country that is being toyed with, and that's exactly the result we are seeing now.
So how do you juxtapose the quest for knowledge and the struggle towards achieving social justice and good governance in Nigeria?
Without knowledge, nothing can be done. For example, we are saying something. We are advising them that, okay, as a government, there is no time that you have enough resources. Why don't we make it as a law? Even if it is just 5% of the budget, you put it in savings. Just 5 or 10. If I were to advise, if I have the opportunity of advising, and if they will take it, I will advocate 10%. You can imagine we have 9.something trillion naira budget now. You now put 900 billion naira aside. If you do that consistently for 10 years, you can imagine what you'll be talking about. You will have enough resources to take care of almost every area of the country. So, and at the end of the day, in terms of social justice, it will flow. It will flow. It will flow, and everybody will be better for it. The country will be better for it. There will be peace. There will be tranquility. And at the end of the day, there will be less job for the government. But all these cosmetic ideas of trying to attack issues and all this kind without the real issues causing all this while, and nobody's looking at it.
It's good to have you on the program.
My pleasure, Sharon.
A lot has been happening in the labor space. Most importantly, your union, the Association of Senior Civil Servants, has been concerned with the issue of training and retraining of your members. And globally, it says that for employers to get the best or the required skills for great output, it's of utmost importance that training is re-emphasized in the workplace. Generally, would you say that the Nigerian government, be it public or private, has been paying enough attention towards training of workers?
Well, not really. To a certain extent, the federal government is trying, but state governments, they are lacking in this respect. Training and retraining, like you observed, is what makes any system work, whether public or private. And to us, Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, probably because we are the bureaucrats and the engine room of government, we strongly feel that without training and retraining, we cannot give create the necessary impact. We wouldn't have the capacity, we wouldn't develop our capacity to a kind of meet the challenges of our various offices. And in that respect, Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria have reasoned that training and retraining is very, very key to the development of our members, be it in their offices or in our trade union cycle. Because trade unionism or labor is all about collective bargaining. And if you don't know the rudiments of collective bargaining, at the end of the day, you might not be able to cope with the challenges of the office. So we have decided that every year we train our members at least 4 times in a year, locally and internationally. And we have seen the importance of this training because it has improved on their productivity. Any member of Association of Senior Civil Servants you meet anywhere is abreast of current happening within the industrial relations cycle or their office
space.
Yeah, office space.
So what would be your expectations in terms of feedback on what is the global best practice in terms of industrial relations, collective bargaining, and most especially when you actually have to interfere when it comes to settling disputes between employers of labor, government, or the private people?
Yeah, the feedback is that at every level we have our members. They have been performing wonderfully in terms of collective bargaining. They stand out in the Committee of Trade Unions in terms of the way they put forward, marshal their points, in terms of how they approach, because now trade unionism is not about banging of the tables anymore. It's about using your brains to get for your members what they deserve.
Okay, the recent training that you had as a STEAM strategic planning, how strategic do you have to be to probably get decent work from employers of labor in Nigeria?
And that is why I have said we have moved away from this dictum of banging of the table to that of using our brains. And strategic planning, strategic engagement is key. And you bear with me that the members we train, who you are able to interact with, were able to are appreciating the new ideas they've been able to get from the training. So our hope is that as we train more every year, they will come back and impact positively in their workplaces and in terms of industrial relations
in Nigeria. During the training, the issue of the essence of good governance was reiterated. What more would your union or association be expecting from the government in terms of good governance and probably getting benefits for probably the many tax that you'll be paying henceforth?
You know, the essence of that training on good governance is not only for government. We as trade union members, we also have to imbibe the idea of good governance. It has to start with us. Do what the rules dictates you do. You know the civil service rule, the financial regulation, store regulations, audit, the due processes involved in office. If you observe them, you are observing good governance. So if we are able to do that from our own perspective, we should be able to guide government, because we are, like I said, the engine room of government. So if we train ourselves in such a way that we observe good governance, invariably, whoever we are working for, we will guide that person to observe the spirit and tenets of good governance. We also urge politicians to observe this, because if you are in the public service, that is the bane of our problem after corruption. Bad governance is number 2, even though corruption is part of bad governance. Getting rid of corruption is part of good governance. So ours is, for us, to build a very strong foundation for this country, we must imbibe the idea and the tenets of good governance. So we hope that politicians and technocrats like our members will observe these tenets and ensure that the system is a kind of made to flow seamlessly for the benefit of Nigerians.
The World Day for Decent Work was celebrated recently, and this takes us to the issue of the new national minimum wage. How would you juxtapose the struggle for the implementation of the new national minimum wage across the states and the struggle towards achieving decent wage or decent work for all in the 21st century?
Well, they go hand in hand. They go pari passu, because decent work cannot be achieved without proper remuneration. And the quest for the payment of a national minimum wage, or do I say a living wage, is what translates to a kind of a decent work, in addition to also providing the enabling environment for decent work to strive. Workers globally never get whatever they want on the platter of gold. You have to struggle. So it doesn't surprise us that we have to struggle before any of our welfare issues are addressed by the employer. So we'll continue to struggle, and that is why we have this slogan, "A luta continua, victoria asserta." We don't know when the victory will come, but we are positive.
It was in the news recently that workers may actually have to be laid off for them to actually meet up with the requests of labor. How do you justify it?
Well, when I hear such stories, I laugh, because with all sincerity, government, particularly the federal government, are in short of workers. The workforce are in short supply. The problem we have is that of funds. Otherwise, you can imagine the core civil service. We don't have more than 70,000 workforce oiling the engine room of government of a population of 180 million. So, are you telling me course workers 70,000 can service the entire country?
So if there's a shortfall, it means that those that are working are actually doing probably double shift or working extra.
Of course.
How do you get the balance from there?
Yeah, that is why we are saying for us to get to the promised land, we have to cut costs, reduce the size of government. I laugh when some people said, when somebody was proposing that Senator Rocha Sokorocha, the immediate past governor of Imo State, was proposing that there should be one senator per state. People are saying no, say he doesn't have the moral justification to propose. In fact, he's a Nigerian. And honestly, I'm in that school of thought that we have to cut cost. We have to cut the kind of political office holders we have in this country. And how to do that is, if possible, one senator per state. Every state should have not more than 3 members of House of Representatives. Every local government should produce only 1 member of House of Assembly. And I'm telling you, by the time we do that, we would have lowered the cost of our overhead costs.
I hope that we'll have further conversation as regards labor and politics and how it can benefit the average Nigerian worker or an average Nigerian, government, and also the organized private sector. It was an interesting conversation I had with you.
A pleasure, Sharon.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.